And really, if you, it really comes down to information and the explosion of information in our world. It's amazing to realize that the amount of information that's been calculated in 1 week of New York Times is actually more than a person in the 17th century would have seen in their entire lifetime. So it's just amazing to think of how much changes have occurred just in that short period of time. Another way to think about that is, on this next slide, that somebody has actually done the calculation, and there will be about 4 exabytes, that's 4 with 19 zeros after it, of new information was created in 2012, the year we just finished. That's actually more information than mankind generated in the first 5,000 years of its existence, and that was in 1 year. So this explosion of information that's out there has really fundamentally changed the way jobs are done and the types of jobs that are available. One way to comment on that is I went and looked at some job titles, and this is just by perusing around the web. These are 10 career titles of jobs that are doing a lot of hiring right now that didn't exist 10 years ago. And the reason that number 10 years is really important is that if you think about it, if you start with us this coming year, you're an undergraduate student for 4 or 5 years, depending on the degree you choose. Then you go out to the workplace. Statistically, most people work in their first job 3 or 4 years. So about 10 years from now is when you would be starting the second job in building your career. So actually, there's a really good chance that that job title of that second job that you would have when you finish school and start your career is something that none of us know would exist right now. So it really creates an interesting place for the university, is how do you prepare a student for a job that we don't even know exists at this point in time? It fundamentally changes what we have to do in preparing a curriculum and preparing students. So that's really the challenge that's in front of us and why we needed a new type of curriculum. Now, what I just told you isn't rocket science, as they say. Everybody knows this is what's happening in the world. And the parents out there know that in your jobs and your companies that you work with, that this acceleration of information and change in the way the workplace works is you see it every day. So this is a great quote that I love and what's cool about this quote is it's either attributed to Yogi Berra or Albert Einstein when you look it up, and there's controversy over who really said this. But in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is. And the reason I love this quote is it's exactly the problem that we have in education today. Everybody knows that the workplace has changed. So in theory, we know there has to be a change in curriculum. But nobody knows how to do it until now. I think that we've figured it out. I really do think we've figured out how to put in practice a new way to teach so that people are prepared for the kind of careers that are here in the 21st century. So that's what I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing to make these changes. So when we reorganized the university, we actually formed into 3 interdisciplinary colleges. And what you see on this slide are those 3 colleges. There's the College of Design, Engineering, and Commerce, which is the college that I run. And then there are 2 counterparts of mine that run a College of Science, Health, and Liberal Arts, and the College of Architecture and the Built Environment. So these 3 colleges, just by their nature, are interdisciplinary. But they're all connected by this concept of teaching we have, our signature of learning here, which is called Nexus Learning. And what we've really done is focused heavily on how do you create active, collaborative classrooms that really focus on real-world problems, but still infuse that professional education with the liberal arts necessary to be a team player, to be able to communicate, and to be able to take your ideas and present them in a way to a decision maker that they can actually do something with them. So those are the attributes that we tried to build into these 3 colleges. And the college I'm going to tell you about tonight is Design, Engineering, and Commerce, the Kanbar College. So in our college, we've combined, as you can tell from the title, all the design majors, all the engineering majors, and all the business majors together into a single college. And really the focus of that is to try to focus on innovation, collaboration, and leadership. And these 3 choices, design, engineering, and business, are not accidental. If you really think about the coolest products that you know, that you own, that you have, that you love, they have these 3 factors in common. They're desirable, feasible, and valuable. think about the picture there on the screen is an iPod Nano. And if you think about the iPod, a lot of people don't realize, the parents in the audience will remember this, the students won't. There were music players out there long before the iPod was invented. There were MP3 players in the 1990s, and I owned one. They were horrible. They were these clunky devices. They had spinning hard drives in them, so that if you dropped it, it broke. And because it had this spinning hard drive in it, the battery didn't last very long, and you could only keep a few songs on it because we didn't have much memory. They were just miserable. So, but in the early 2000s, Steve Jobs came out with the iPod, and really he really nailed the design and the engineering components. You know, it's a sleek design. It's got a great interface. It's easy to use. It's a very seductive design with a single wheel button on it. So the design was really interesting. It had great new engineering. It had solid state memory. It had long life batteries. It had touch displays. It had all kinds of things that we didn't have before in the old MP3 players. But what people don't realize is the iPod did not sell well when it came out. Its sales were flat. It sold no better than the other MP3 players that were on the market, until Apple went around the world and got all the digital rights in place to form the iTunes Store. So there was no business model in place that made owning an iPod make sense. So until you actually combine this really seductive business model, buying a song at 99 cents, stuff that we take for granted nowadays, that business model needed to be there in order for the iPod to sell. And as soon as the iTunes Store opened, then the sales of iPods took off. It was the perfect marriage of design, engineering, and business together into this desirable, feasible, and valuable product. And that's really how businesses thrive today. So that's why the combination of these specific majors in our college and what we're trying to accomplish by having those majors together. So our college is really huge. We have 16 different degree programs. We have all the engineering degrees. We have all the business degrees. We have the design degrees ranging from industrial design through graphics and digital design, all the fashion degrees ranging from fashion design all the way to fashion marketing and merchandising, through the textiles degrees from the engineering side of textiles to the design side of textiles. So that's 16 different bachelor's degrees. We have some master's and doctoral degree students. So our college actually makes up more than 50% of the university. So we're a very large institution with a very diverse set of degree programs. So the question becomes, how do you combine all of those degree programs together and give students a common experience that teaches them this innovation and collaboration and the creative problem solving that goes with it? And we do this through the new curriculum we created, which is the DEC core curriculum. So all the students in our college do 4 things. And I'm not going to go through course by course with you today. That's not the point of today's discussion. But in a broad sense, let me tell you about what we do. All the students in our college would take the college studies, which is the general education curriculum. And this is where you really learn the communication skills, the teaming skills, the art and history and humanities skills necessary to really be a meaningful and productive citizen. We have the third block there in purple, your academic major. You have to go deep in your major, because really, if you're going to be successful on an interdisciplinary team, you have to bring something to the party. And what you bring to the party is your discipline, your expertise. So you still have to major in business, or major in textile design, or fashion merchandising, or engineering, or whatever you major in, you still have to be an expert in that field. But what we've added are the 2 in red. We have a 5-course sequence that you'll take in our college, no matter what your major is. And those are 4 DEC core courses, a design processes course, a business models course, a systems analysis course, and a research methods course, and the opportunity to work in an integrated capstone project in your senior year. And this project is really integrated teams across the major with real external customers from real companies with a real problem that you have to solve for that company. So the college studies is what gives you your breadth. The major gives you your depth. And these DEC core experiences and capstone experiences are really the things that are going to knit this together into what I like to call a T-shaped curriculum that gives you that combination of depth and breadth that really makes you a valuable employee from the day you leave the university through your career. So let me dig a little bit deeper into those core courses. So let me walk through them one at a time. I'm very much I believe that really curriculum has to be very assessed in a very focused way for us to know that we're delivering to you what we claim we're delivering to you and that you're learning what we claim we're teaching. And I think about these 5 core course experiences as 5 questions that you'll be able to answer about yourself when you leave the program. So this starts in a freshman year with this design processes class where really you learn about how do I find opportunities? How do I look at a situation and find that pinch point in it where there are problems or something about the experience is not good and that I have an opportunity to improve it. And that's really what the design process is all about, finding those opportunities. And the second course you take then is a business models class, again an integrated classroom with all the majors mixed. And in that course you'll ask the question of yourself, how do I create value from this opportunity? And now read value here is a very broad word. I don't just mean make money. Value can be value to society, value to yourself, value to your stockholders, to your customers. Tom's Shoes, for example, is a company that creates value not necessarily by how much money they make, which they do also make money, but when you buy a pair of Tom's Shoes, you know that another pair of shoes is going to be donated to somebody in the third world who needs those shoes, and that creates value to you as a customer that has something beyond just dollars. So how do you create a value proposition from that opportunity? Third course is a systems analysis course, which teaches you really how to learn to manage complexity, because let's face it, every real-world problem is complex. So you have to figure out a way to deal with these complex problems and figure out what pieces of information are necessary in order to solve the problem and create value. And then research methods is the 4th course in the sequence, again in mixed classrooms. And there you learn really how do I go ask the right questions? How do I do the research? How do I find the information? How do I sort through this firestorm of stuff on the internet and get down to the 5 or 6 key pieces of information I need to solve my problem faster than my competitor does so that I can get there first? So those 4 things come together in the Capstone project in your final year, where we will pair you up with a problem with a customer, and you'll put together all these skills and actually deliver a real solution. And I will talk in a second about how those projects are picked. I notice that's one of the questions we have on the screen here. So let me I'm a visual thinker. So what I just showed you, I kind of see coming together in this, what I call the DEC DNA. So you know how DNA chain strand has these 2 spiraling sides to it that are connected by the links. And so I kind of see one chain of this being the academic major, where you're taking your courses through your major and getting deeper and deeper in your discipline. Parallel to that is your college studies, which is giving you that breadth and broadening experience, including international experiences if you like. And those 2 are kind of tied together and spiraling through your 4 years and connected by these DEC core courses that one by one help link the academic major to your college studies. And then that all spirals together into this explosion at the end, which let's hope is not you crashing and burning, but more you exploding with new ideas, which is the DEC Capstone experience, or that Capstone project at the end of 4 years of being with us. So that's sort of the sequence and what happens. So let's focus a little on that Capstone, because that's what a lot of people want to talk about. That Capstone is really amazing, because if you go back and think about the majors, these 16 different majors coming across all these design, engineering, and business disciplines, we almost form a little consulting firm in our college. So a company could bring us a problem, and we kind of look at it and say, well, you know, to solve that problem, we're going to need 2 mechanical engineers, an industrial designer, a textile designer, a marketing student, and a finance student, or whatever, and put that team together with a faculty advisor and assign them that project. So we can form these interdisciplinary teams around whatever the project is that we need to solve, and it can range across any of the disciplines that are in our college. So that's how we choose these projects and select them. Now, I was going to, at this point, go over to a link and show you a little video about one of our Capstone projects. I don't have that video queued up here in Adobe Connect, but if you go to YouTube at some point after we're done and type in Philadelphia University and Capstone projects, industry projects, you can actually look at several links, several videos where we've captured what these projects are like. I guess we could send a couple links out afterwards. So yeah, my colleagues here are saying we'll mail out a link or 2 to those YouTube videos after this presentation's over. But I just had a couple here to tell you about Just to give you an example of the companies that have come to us with these projects. The project is a one-year-long project, one academic year long. I know somebody's asking about how long they are. So they last the whole academic year. Sometimes some programs will focus on some smaller projects for half the year, one semester, and then a deep dive into one of the projects for the second semester. Some of our projects come to us and we do really rapid deep dives. We call them sprint projects, where we'll go for 1 week. And a company will come in. We've just run one this year, two this year actually. A company will come in and present a problem. We'll form teams around that problem. They'll work for 1 week, nonstop on it, with almost no sleep actually. And the company will come back in a week and will present all the solutions. So they run from a week to 9 months. Some example companies are Federal Mogul, QVC, Unilever, DuPont, some regional companies like Southco and Airline Hydraulics, Armstrong that does the ceiling tiles, Rubbermaid, Consumer Products. That's just a few. Rather than a video today, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the project I'm doing this semester. I have a team that I'm working with, and I have in my team 2 mechanical engineers, 2 industrial engineers, a marketing student, and a finance student. And we have those 6 students working for a company, a regional company in the area, and that company has 2 questions for us. They sell a material, and this material is typically sold into the industrial market to other companies like Boeing or Lockheed or somebody like that. They have 2 questions for us. One is, could that product be used in commercial or consumer markets to create some new product opportunities for sales in other areas? So one of the things our students are doing is looking at how they could take this product mix that the company sells and come up with some new offerings that could be sold in the consumer or commercial market and broaden this company's business. And we have to come up with a market plan and a business model of how that would work. Second question they have is, if the material they currently sell, which is made out of aluminum, were made out of a different material, would that open up other markets to sell this material into? So another aspect of the project is the students looking at material substitutions and how that would change the mechanical and physical properties to sell this into different markets. So you can see there's design elements to this problem, there's engineering elements to this problem, and there's business and marketing elements to this problem. And the team of 6 have to work together to make that happen for the customer. So we started this problem in January. We've met with the company twice. We're going to meet with them 2 more times. And at the end of April, we will be presenting to the CEO and CFO and the corporate executives, and the students will be presenting their work. And they will have built prototypes of real product offerings in our shops and design studios that they can present to the company to show them what kind of products they might be able to build from the current materials they have. So that's just a snapshot of a project. So far, we've had a huge response to this new curriculum. We've been teaching it, as I said, for 2 years now. Next year would be the 3rd year. One of our alums and benefactors, Maurice Kanbar, has actually donated $15 million toward our college in response to this new curriculum. He loves what we're doing. Maurice himself is a serial entrepreneur. He's started several companies. He has several patents. He's produced movies. He's owned real estate. So he's done many, many things in his life. And he really loves the model of this sort of entrepreneurial, very sort of innovative, creative, problem-solving curriculum we created. And he attributes much of his success to that sort of nature of the university back when he went here. So he's glad to see that being sort of re-envisioned in a 21st century way. And that's why we're now called the Kanbar College of Design, Engineering, and Commerce in honor of Maurice's gift. So that's one great recognition we've received. We've also been fortunate enough to support this at the university with a brand new building. The new building, which is actually the building I'm talking to you from. And in fact, if you look in the upper right corner of that picture, there's a set of lights on in the upper right corner of the, we're like 1 room away from those lights right now as we speak. And so we're coming to you from the new building. This building opened up this semester to classes, and it's about 40,000 square feet of space. And it's got design studios, it's got machine shops, it's got prototyping labs, it's got classrooms, and all the interdisciplinary classes in the core curriculum and in the industry projects in the curriculum can be worked on in this building. So when you're on campus for a visit, swing by and check out the new spaces that you'd be having your DEC core courses in. So that's another great idea of the support we've received for this new curriculum. we're starting to receive some national and international awards for it too. There's a design publication called Course 77 that comes out of San Francisco that has an International Design Award contest every year. And the 2012 Design Award for Educational Initiatives was us. We were just honored to be recognized by Course 77. So the new DEC core curriculum was up against some programs from places like Harvard and Stanford and some pretty big schools. And we were chosen as the international winner for that curriculum this year, or last year. So that's another great honor we just received. And I'll end with another honor that, in addition to sort of being recognized for the innovation of the new curriculum, the U.S. News and World publication had us listed as a best value school. And I think again, the value proposition of preparing people for careers in this way, U.S. News recognizes as a way to really make the bang for dollar of your educational dollar there, that you could really recover in a high quality career what you invest in your education. So let me just end with another favorite quote of mine, and that is, this one's from Socrates. And I think he got this back a couple thousand years ago. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. So this idea of not just throwing information at students, not filling the vessel, opening your head and pouring information in, but having this active collaborative learning environment where you actually get excited about what you're doing and you want to be involved in your career from day one when you walk on campus. So I think Socrates got it mostly right. In all due respect to Socrates, I made one slight change to his statement. So this is my version of Socrates' statement, which is Kanbar College is the kindling of a flame and the filling of a vessel, not, if you notice back on the previous slide, it was a not. I think it's an and. Because this goes back to my idea of T-shaped curricula. You have to develop disciplinary depth, and you will do that here. You will still get a degree in engineering or design or business, but you will also, through the DEC core, get this interdisciplinary breadth. And what it's going to really do is set you up to maintain our record of placement in real productive jobs when you get out. And that's really the bottom line of what we're trying to do, is create these meaningful and productive experiences for you when you go out into the workplace. So let me end on that. I think 25 minutes. I was close to being right. I said about 20. And let me stop there because I know there's a lot of questions that are coming through. And I want to work with Greg here and see if I can answer some of those questions for you.
Yeah, Ron. One interesting question early on from Carlin, and I think it's a good segue from Socrates. How do you teach innovation?
That's a good question. I think it's linked, and I noticed somebody along the line used the word creativity is what breeds innovation. I thought that was well said, because I think of a difference between creativity and innovation. First of all, there's a lot of literature that shows creativity can be taught. You can teach people to be more creative. We have very specific exercises built into our curriculum to try to teach people how to be creative, more creative. But there's a difference between creativity and innovation, and that is the reduction to practice part. Creative is to come up with a great idea. And if that's all you do, you've been creative. But if you don't figure out a way to reduce that idea to practice, you haven't been innovative. And things like the discipline associated with the design process and business models and systems thinking and research methods will give you the discipline to take a creative idea and be innovative with it.
I thought it's because we failed a lot. Things just don't work the first time.
Yes, well, no, Einstein said, Edison said, I never failed, I just succeeded at learning what did not work.
Exactly. And on the subject of grades, there was another question, I think, from Carlin again, and then we'll come back to some capstone questions. What kind of grading system do you use at Philadelphia University? And I guess I would take that another step. If I'm working on a capstone project and you're giving me a problem that really has no described solution, how do you give me a grade?
That's really good. And we run into this also in the integrated design process class, because students coming out of high school are often used to the grade being linked to the final product. And really, at these design level courses, especially the process type courses, our real philosophy is product by process. So we grade you on the process you follow to get to the solution more than we grade you on the solution. That's the one difference between a college experience and, say, the real business place. Right? At this point, you can afford to come up as a student with maybe a slightly less interesting solution when you're practicing with us on these problems. And the industry clients know that if they give us 20, if there are 20 teams working on a problem, they won't all come up with a phenomenal solution. But if students follow the right process and show us they've learned the discipline to follow the design process and the business models process, we would give them a high grade, so to speak, for having learned the process. And then it takes experience when they're in the workplace to translate that process into consistently delivering high quality products. Mute her. Yeah, mute it.
Okay, great. A couple things back to capstones. Richard asked a question about how projects are picked, and Maria asked a question about how students are selected for those projects. How students are selected for projects?
Okay. That's a good question. So students, one of the things about this type of curriculum is it's very much driven by student desire for experiences. So I have students from freshman year on that participate in projects because they volunteer to come forward and participate in them. You will be required, the way the curriculum is described and it's constructed, to have to participate in projects at several points in the curriculum. But what I've noticed is the really successful students are the ones that don't wait to be picked for a project, but also step up and volunteer to work in projects. And some of our students as sophomores are 3 or 4 projects in already. And that's before they get to the required senior one. So the way you're selected is based on your major, your disciplinary expertise that's needed for the problems, but also who steps forward and wants to work on projects.
Perfect. And is it possible to double major in, say, something like business and engineering or design and engineering?
It's probably possible. Possible is always dependent on what you're willing to give up to do it. I mean, so it may take an extra year of being here or something to pick 2 majors that are very, very full of a lot of content in the curriculum. What I would propose doing is more like majoring in a major of your choice and then doing either a minor or concentration that allows you to work in the other discipline. I have an engineering student who's doing a minor in industrial design this year. So she's getting the experiences she needs from the industrial design curriculum without having to do a second major in it. I think a double major isn't as important as using your credits to get experiences in these other disciplines.
And how hard is it to switch majors?
Hard.
Now, how would you go about helping an adult, say, who's been working and is coming back, make that transition in that gap between being in high school, working, that gap in education? How do we ease that transition?
So somebody who's coming back, not directly from high school, but having worked.
Correct.
I think that's an interesting question because they'll have some distinct advantages over a freshman coming right out of high school because they'll have some work experience that they can bring to the table. And they'll have some distinct disadvantages in that they probably aren't in the same study mode that a person would have been in coming right out of high school. So I don't think it's so much that they'll be disadvantaged. I think they're going to be differently advantaged. So they're going to have to work with their advisors and in specific courses to get back into that focus and discipline of classwork. But I don't think a person coming back after a few years' experience is going to be at a disadvantage. I think they'll bring a lot to the party because this is such an applied reduction to practice type curriculum that some real world work experience, whether it be summers or actually been on the job for a while, I think would help them a lot when they get into these courses.
Great. On the subject of experiences, tell me a little bit about study abroad opportunities for students in DEC.
Tell me. Oh yeah. Is the volume coming through now? No voice.
Can you hear me and not Ron? Can anyone hear me? Can anyone hear me?
All right, hold on.
All right, hold on.
Switch it. You just need to
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully I have the other headset now. So
hopefully
it's back on now.
Back
Good.
on now. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me answer the question. The question that was asked is about study abroad.
Study abroad.
And I was saying that we can do study abroad experiences ranging from experiences that are just a whole semester long, where you're working with general education credits and really large experience at another country, all the way down to very discipline specific experiences we're doing between. I'm going to mute the one so that it doesn't echo. There we go. That should help the echo. That might help the echoing now. There you go. There you go. Great. I'm hearing some betters up there on the screen. That's good. Sorry about that. So I think we got it solved. So so let me start that again. So the study abroad experiences. You can imagine doing study abroad experiences that are university level, where you would go with students from many different majors, and you would focus on a lot of general education experiences and immersion in a culture. I have students in engineering and business and design that have all done those kind of experiences. Now that usually adds a semester because you literally go away for a while. So sometimes that adds a summer or a semester to your stay. Down to many experiences we're building now that are very popular with students that either go over the winter session between Christmas and the new semester starting, or they go over spring break, or they go over the first summer session, where students will go in disciplinary groups to countries and work on targeted problems. Like we have a group going to Costa Rica, we've had groups go to Germany, we've had groups go to China and Hong Kong. So there's many opportunities like that for students to incorporate into their education some study abroad experiences. We're actually working towards some certificates in global experiences too, so that students can get some documentation of what they've done as an international experience. Yeah. The next question was, do we accept transfer students? That question just popped up on the screen. Yes, we do accept transfer students into the programs. It all depends on what year you come and how you transfer in. If you transfer in with credits from other schools, you may have to do course by course substitutions for those courses. But we're also building some articulation agreements so that in the future people who finish associate's degrees at universities or community colleges can transfer those credits in also. So it's either going to be community college credits that you bring in or credits you bring in from other universities. A lot of times the courses you're missing if you come in and maybe your second year here is to go back and pick up some of the DEC core experiences so that you don't miss those. But usually the courses in math and science and general education, and that transfer in very straightforwardly. The next question is on internships, and can students do those? Yes, students do a lot of internships here because of these industry relationships, and in fact, quite honestly, the industry relationships, the companies are really after getting hold of students and getting them early. So a lot of students end up interning at the companies they do projects with, or vice versa. They'll intern somewhere, and then that company will bring a project back the next year to work on during the semester. But students typically intern over the summers versus, say, a traditional co-op arrangement, which you'll see at some schools where they're alternate semesters away and semesters here. This is more like summer, and sometimes the companies are close enough that people do internships during the school year if they can work it out in their schedules. Advising is the next. Okay, the next topic that came up a lot was advising. Okay, we have an advising system in place that's pretty robust. I mean, the freshman and sophomore year advising is very structured, and we have what we call advising syllabus, which is actually basically a set of marching orders for how an advisor and a student will work together during their first and second year of advising, which involves a lot of academic advising in the sense of which courses should I take, what order should I take them, that kind of thing. In your junior and senior year, you'll transition more toward what I call career advising, where you'll be more talking to mentors in your major
who will help you with the questions like, where do I get internships? What kind of companies should I be talking to if this is the kind of job I want? Introducing you to people when they're on campus giving presentations, so you maybe collect business cards for when you do want to apply for jobs. That happens more with your faculty advisors inside your major. So there's sort of two types. I see a follow-up question on internships. There are two kinds of internships, and it really is very much dependent on the kind of major you're in. Some businesses, some disciplines, it's traditional for the interns to not get paid or to get paid a small amount, maybe to handle housing or something. Whereas in other disciplines, it's normally a paid job in the summer that pays fairly well. So it really is a function of the kind of discipline you're in. I know that my background is engineering, and in engineering disciplines, they usually get paid pretty handsomely in the summers for those kind of internships. What kind of places do animation majors work? Those kind of students, it's funny, animation actually covers a broad range of things. There's animation students that end up working for television stations like in Nickelodeon and places like that. In fact, we have a lot of contacts with Nickelodeon. Or they end up working in the internet, related businesses where they're doing animations for interactive internet design. To actually, a lot of the drawing skills in animation ending up in static drawings too. You might even use animation in things like graphic novels and comic books. So I think it shows up in everything from the high-end CGI stuff that happens in movies and television, all the way to hand-drawn graphic novels. And a lot of animation students also end up in the business side doing marketing and branding, where they take their animation skills into the business side. Where are the most popular internships for fashion merchandising majors? That's one of the questions that just popped up. A lot of those students end up in some of the large fashion firms that we have specific relationships with, like QVC or Macy's or Phillips Van Heusen. Those are some of the more major sort of apparel companies, Nike, Under Armour, places like that where we have a lot of industry contacts. That's where a lot of those kind of students end up interning and working and basically starting in jobs where they do a lot of the sourcing. Let's see, so some of the questions are now coming up on career services. How do you find internships, things like that? Oh, that's a good question. There's 2 or 3 levels of how that occurs. We have career fairs here on campus. We have a whole career services office that works with students from literally freshman year on, helps you build a resume. Then we have career fairs for both full-time permanent jobs and for internships and summer jobs. And those people, that's an event where people come to campus, and I like to call it kind of like industry speed dating. They'll set up in a room with tables, and the students can come in with their resumes, walk around the room, and talk to companies about what their interests are. It gives them interviewing skills, plus it also gives them contacts for internships. Secondly, the career advising part I mentioned, junior and senior year, we're such a small university that you really do develop these one-on-one intimate relationships with your faculty. And as the faculty get to know you, they have contacts in industry, and most of us have worked in industry at some point in our careers. Very few career academics at this university. Most of the people have worked in industry or currently consult in industry or have their own practices in their own firms and teach here. So a lot of times the internships come from personal relationships with faculty. And then thirdly, believe it or not, many of our students come in with contacts that they have themselves, whether it be a family member or somebody else. And what we'll do in career services is help the students work on how do you contact the company and ask for an internship. So maybe you live somewhere and there's a company near you and you have relatives who work there, but you don't know how to approach them about an internship opportunity. Well, we could help you sort of craft that ask so that you could go ask at a place that maybe we don't have a contact yet, but you're our contact. Okay, I'm seeing, are there many opportunities for aspiring graphic designers? It's funny you should mention that. When I was just at, just this last week, I was at Georgia Pacific down in Atlanta with one of our graphic design faculty members, because Georgia Pacific does a lot of packaging for companies like, that make consumer products. And what they want to do is talk to us about bringing us integrated projects where they bring graphic designers together with branding and marketing people from the business school and engineers and industrial designers from our design and engineering programs to look at how you could offer holistic packaging solutions to customers. Not just what's the product look like, is the box crushed or not when it gets shipped, but graphic designers really need to focus on what I learned was there's 3 specific distances, believe it or not, that a consumer interacts with a product when it's on the shelf at a store. And the graphic designers need to work with the business folks on how do I put graphics on a package that tells you about the brand and the information that you want about that product at each of those interaction points. When you pass it down the aisle, when you stop and look at it, when you pick it up and read it. That's just one very small example of what a graphic designer might do in an integrated program like this. Where else were we going? Do professors go on a study abroad? Absolutely. Usually the chaperones on these trips are the faculty. They go along with the students. In fact, we have a trip leaving for Hong Kong over spring break, and there's 3 faculty going on that trip. 4 faculty going on that. No, India, not Hong Kong. India is the trip this spring break. There's 4 faculty going to India with a group of students, and they must have 30 students going on that trip. It's a very large group that's going. So yeah, definitely, that's half the point is they go and they teach while they're there with the students. Internships and capstone projects for fashion design. We have a lot of interesting fashion design projects going on right now that are very interdisciplinary in nature, like I was talking about before. We have a project, for example, going on with ILC Dover. ILC Dover is a company in Dover, Delaware, believe it or not, that makes all of the spacesuits for NASA. And as the space industry is going commercial, they actually are now being asked by private companies to design the spacesuits for all the private launches that are going to be happening over the next 20 years. And it's a really interesting mix of they need to be engineered to work as a performance garment, but they also have to have fashion in the sense of comfort, fit, and performance as a garment. So there's a fashion design all the way from your traditional fashion design of like gowns and things like that happening, where we do our fashion show every year, all the way through to fashion design for these high performance garments. There are also a lot of fashion design needs in the sports industries right now for, again, fashion for high performance, whether it be Nike, Under Armour, things like that, designing high performance garments that fit in fashion, go together. Okay, we have a question here on technology, and I'm wondering if you encourage and or teach those face-to-face business skills such as interview or a business meeting. Oh, absolutely. The great question about technology. You can get hung up in email and Skype chats, or like we're doing right now, but the majority of business is still done face-to-face, and these teams have to work together face-to-face, and a lot of the interdisciplinary teaming skills have to do with those face-to-face meetings. How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with difficult conversations when somebody's not performing? How do you make a sales pitch to somebody who's resistant to your product? How do you get information? A lot of clients don't know what they need. They think they know what they need. So how do you, in a polite way, manage a client's expectations? The students that I have in this team that's working with the company, the project I'm managing this semester, every one of the interactions with the company they do. I don't. I started the introductions. I got the company down here. When the students have to do something, they drive to the company, they sit down with the people at the company, and they make their asks. I'll coach them, but they have to go do it. So really the face-to-face stuff is critical. That's a great question. Question about how demanding our engineering curriculum is. Is it possible to minor without taking over 4 years to get a BS? I think it depends on your minor. It's a question about engineering and how demanding the engineering curriculum is. We have a 4-year engineering curriculum, and it's pretty tight, but there is room in the general engineering curriculum to have a 4-course concentration. And that concentration can be a specific engineering subdiscipline that we predefine, or you could package those courses into something else. So for somebody who might want to minor, the way you would do that is you would go to the director of the engineering programs and say, I would like to use my 4 or 5 course elective package in this way to get a minor. And that's what the student's doing that I mentioned, who's doing a minor in industrial design, for example. She's packaging her electives into the minor for industrial design, and she got that approved by the program director. There's another question up here about, does that specific garment fitting for spacesuits also incorporate industrial design? Yeah, we're working with a design firm out of New York, And one of the things they mentioned that I never thought about here, but they thought was fascinating is because we have engineering and industrial design and also textile design and fashion design, it's the only place they could find where they could do hard goods and soft goods at the same place. So they build a lot of products, and you can imagine a lot of products, a spacesuit being one, where there's hard rigid pieces and there's soft flexible pieces. So finding a place where you can do hard soft combinations, and it can go everything from a high-tech spacesuit to what this company was worried about in New York was a high chair for your kitchen. And there's structural elements to a high chair that an engineer and an industrial designer need to do, and how does it fold, how do you interact with it, but then there's textile and fabric designs that have to be done to make the thing work too, and finding a place where they can do both is pretty tough. Another question up here is, do you find that with your curriculum that you're able to teach the appropriate skills for millennials to work in harmony with baby boomers and Gen Xers? That's a great question. That's what I meant back when I said, how do you deal with difficult conversations? Part of learning to interact with a person in a team is to be able to relate to them. And one of the things that I find fascinating is when you have to have somebody who's 20 years old, like in the team I'm working with, talk to these marketing and engineering and design people at the company I'm working with who are 50 or 60 years old, and they need to get their questions across. They need to talk to them in a professional manner, but they don't. And then the 50 or 60-year-olds have to figure out how they communicate with a 20-year-old student. So it actually goes in both directions. It's really fun to watch those interactions, and part of that is watching the students learn how to interact with the faculty, because that's where that starts. Is we're the first people they get to train with, if you will, other than their parents and their families, to how do I hold an intelligent conversation with somebody of a different generation and get the information I need, in this case to pass a course or work in a course. A question here about what kind of places do textile design majors work after graduating. Oh wow, that's a great one. I mentioned, the one that pops to my head is one of my associate deans, one of my managers of academic operations here in the college has really tight ties to the textile companies that work with sporting goods firms. So one of the great places is designing textiles for the Under Armours and the Nikes of the world and people like that. The other great place for textile designers to work is in places like Target and places that make home goods. So you might see upholstery for furniture. You might see them working even for industrial furniture manufacturing companies that make office furniture, for example, and the textiles that are associated with those. So that it's amazing how many places the textiles touch our lives that aren't just apparel. There's a question here about what are the benefits for studying abroad. That's a really good question. They're not the same for everybody. I mean, honest to God, for some people, studying abroad is a really great experience and it broadens what they can do. For other students, it's not the right thing to do. The benefits really are to open you up to other cultures, give you some self-confidence, because you have to go and navigate this place you don't understand or know and understand how to deal with it. It's great for practical things like practicing language skills. It's great for learning how business transactions occur in different cultures and how culture affects a business. But for some people, it might not be the right thing to do. So I think that's one of those conversations you have with your advisor. Again, the advantage of being in a small school, you can sit down and have that one-on-one conversation and talk about, is it right for me? What do I want to do when I get out in the world? And will a study abroad experience help me or not? The question, another one up here, do we have any animation grads that work in the anime style of animation? I am going to plead ignorance on that question. I have absolutely no idea. Being a geeky engineer myself, I could not tell you if we have animation grads that work in the anime style of animation. Do either of you two know that? I'm seeing two shaking heads over here. We could try to get you that answer, Ashley, but I don't know the answer myself. Sorry that I can't answer that for you. We've had a lot of, okay, there's a question here about med school and having students with engineering backgrounds apply to med school. Yeah, and you nailed it. It's provided their sciences are met. That's exactly right. We have med school advisors here. I'm, pre-med advisors. And if you have an interest in pre-med, first of all, let me tell you, I've come from 2 other engineering schools in my 21 years in education. Engineers make outstanding medical students. It's a great combination. Med schools love it. There's so much technology in in medicine these days that people with technical backgrounds that are interested in following medicine do really well. But you nailed the piece. You have to make sure early in your career here that you spend time with your advisor making sure you meet all the sciences so that you have the right science background to get into med school. I'm being told that we have the MCAT prep, 80% of our students place in the med school who do MCAT. So we have good advising in that area. We have a whole health sciences program in the College of Health Science and Liberal Arts. So we have the faculty on campus to give you the advice you need to get into medical school. Okay, Japanese style of art like Pokemon. Thank you, Ashley. Now I at least know what you mean. But I'm not embarrassed. I mean, I'm learning things every day in this interdisciplinary program, so now I know something new. You taught me something tonight. Thanks. So it looks like we're about 5 minutes to 8, and I think we're going to have to wrap up. I'm blown away by the number of questions everybody's been asking, and I hope we were able to answer a few things. And if you didn't get them answered, please make sure you email those questions. Greg just put up his email address. Make sure you get those questions in if we didn't answer them. I really appreciate all the time you guys put in tonight. Thank you so much. Wait a second here. There will be an email to a link for the recording of this, so if there's information I blew past because I talk fast, you'll be able to play this thing back and check it out later. So thanks. I hope I see you all on campus someday. I'd love to meet you.